Hi, my name is Rob, and today I will look at what's in the Environmental Registry. I will- I'm just getting the first article up. Okay. So the first item in the Environmental Registry is supporting critical transmission infrastructure in Northern Ontario. And this has the number of 019-9007. And you can comment on this until September 15th. I won't go in as much detail on this one as comments all in September, and I know I will be talking about potentially this again. So I will go to the next one. So the next one, the next one is called Advanced Wood Construction Action Plan. And this has the number of 019-8268. And you can comment on this until October 1st, 2024. And comments are in October, so I won't go in depth today, but I might in the future. And then the next one, I'm just pulling up. Expanding protected areas in Ontario. Sites proposed to be regulated under the Provincial Parks and Conservation Reserves Act 2006. And comments all due October 30th. And this has a number of 019-8618. There was a 3-year, $10 million agreement with Environment and Climate Change Canada to support the preservation of lands throughout the province. There was Ontario Living Legacy and Acquired Lands. It looks like it's a group. There's a land use strategy. They recommended 378 properties or protected areas. And they recommended 5.9 million acres and 2.1 million. 5.2 million acres have been regulated. So there's still some left from this recommendation. So I went down. They're proposing to expand the protected area system by proposing a list of new lands to be protected under the Provincial Parks and Conservation Reserves Act 2006. There's a map. Might be able to click on this map. Those 5 zones. Hopefully it loads. So the northwest is like the Manitoba border, basically northwestern Ontario, and then northeast. Those southwest and southeast and Algonquin. Right. It's important to like areas close to municipalities and other built-up areas. It's important to conserve those areas. An area where there isn't a lot of habitat loss or development. While it's good to protect those, it isn't as effective. So that should be noted. So there's one proposal in Bass Lake Provincial Park, 6 proposals in the northeast zone. 10. Some more conservation. There's a difference between Provincial Parks Edition, Conservation Reserve Editions. I like that those editions because fragmentation is a huge issue. Doesn't look like those completely new areas though, which is disappointing. Maybe it's, unless I'm reading it wrong, that they're adding an additional park, so it's an addition. I'm not sure. I'll have to read more into it. I did note that Alford Bog Provincial Park is on this list. Bogs are difficult to maintain in the whale. There's a lot of whale and endangered species in bogs, so it's good that there's some bogs, and I recognize that name. Looks like there's some new urban boundaries, which is good. And this is a proposal that I'll be reading more into. Oh, yeah. So I will go to the next one. Modernizing wildland. Oh, did I? Modernizing wildland fire management in Ontario is the next one. This has a number 019-8756. So this is a good one to look at, and you can comment on this until August 29th, 2024. They're wanting to create a modernized approach to wildland fire management in Ontario that would strengthen the collective responsibility for wildland management. Fire. Improve awareness for wildland fire risk, expand prevention and mitigation of wildland fire, enhance preparedness in response to wildland fire, strengthen rules and consequences for non-compliance with wildland fire. And then there was this document modernizing Ontario's wildland fire management. Made some highlights. So those are the 5 areas that I mentioned, and they've made a wildland fire program. The province made a wildland fire program and policy review, and is considering changes to the Forest Fires and Prevention Act. They want to strengthen collective responsibility for fire management. Is First Nations. I want to make sure that it's important that First Nations are included. So they come up for 4 different times. Okay, it's saying that many First Nation communities are situated in remote areas of the province, and they are frequently impacted by smoke and wildland fires. They face greater risk of evacuation and threats to their communities and to the lands that Indigenous peoples depend on food, medicine, ceremony, and other uses. Okay, so the minister is able to, I think Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry is able to enter into agreements with municipalities, First Nations on aspects of wildland management. So I think that's good. So those discussion questions in this document. The discussion questions: do you support strengthening collective responsibility for wildland management in Ontario? What steps can be taken to immediately strengthen collective responsibility for wildland fire management? I'm not an expert on fire management, but I do know that it's important to maintain Indigenous knowledge and throughout Ontario regarding fire. Controlled burns are important. And then, do you have suggestions for an approach or model that would support advancing the collective responsibility for wildland fire management? And then there's additional questions. There's an interactive file map. I'll stay on the page. So if you're interested in that one, there's a bunch to go through. Lot of information to go through and consider. So I will go to the next one. Transition. Where did my articles go? Okay. So I just want to see. Okay, so I do have time for next week. Okay. So the next one is discussion paper regulating commercial scale geologic carbon storage projects in Ontario. My goal is to make a separate video on this particular proposal. So I won't go too much in depth, but it has the number 019-8767, and you can comment on this until August 23rd, 2024. And it's about regulating carbon storage. And I will go to the next one. Oh, I should mention that my plan is to make a video for that sometime next week, just on carbon storage and climate change. So next one is... Okay, so the next one, it's due today, and I will talk a lot more about this one. So developing government response statements for 4 species at risk under the Endangered Species Act 2007. The government is developing government response statements for species at risk. They're related to the Hudsonian godwit, lake whitefish, Omongo lake, small and small-bodied populations, and Suckley's cuckoo bumblebee, or cuckoo. The draft government response statements provide species-specific directions on the actions that the government intends to lead to support, to protect, and recover these 4 species. And I might go... These are reports. Report 1. So this is the first report of the Suckley's cuckoo bumblebee. And then there's some background information. They have input from indigenous communities and organizations, stakeholders, other jurisdictions, and members of the public. I'm just reading some of the things that I highlighted. Key threats are habitat loss, fragmentation, and degradation, as well as pesticides. They depend on stable populations of the host species, and there's a lot of unknown. They haven't been studied that well. The current size in the population is not known. The biological and technical feasibility of reintroducing or augmenting Suckley's cuckoo's bumblebee is unknown. They want to continue to protect the bumblebee and its habitat throughout the Endangered Species Act, undertake communications and outreach to increase public awareness of species at risk in Ontario, monitor populations and mitigate threats to the species and habitat in provincially protected areas. Actions identified as high may be given priority consideration for funding, and other species at risk stewardship funding. May means that they'll may do it, they don't have to do it. So that's an important point to make. Some of the actions will undertake research to confirm host species in Ontario and determine how suckleized cuckoo bumblebee finds host colonies. Aardwink conduct research to improve knowledge of the suckleized cuckoo bumblebee's biology and ecology. Aardwink that Heil. And then there's some other actions that they're taking. The bumblebee hasn't been conformed in Ontario since. This bumblebee hasn't been conformed in Ontario since 1971. Those different different species of bumblebees. A lot of people only associate one or two species of bees. They want to develop and implement a standardized survey program for the bumblebee and its host species, prioritizing surveys in under-sampled areas, historical or potential bumblebee and sites and areas with known extant host populations. I would rank some of these higher than they all. And then there's financial support, but it's may. Financial support for the implementation of actions may be available through the Species at Risk Stewardship Program. There should be dedicated funding for species at risk. And that's like something that's common among all these. So that's the comment that I would make, and hopefully you make all able to make a comment today. But these come up often. I should. Okay, so that's a new one. So I'll go to reports. So this is a different species. This is the Hudsonian godwit. And I'll read some of the highlighted areas. I didn't read everything. I thought I made highlights somewhere. Oh, and this made highlights. Oh, threats to survival and recovery. Climate change, severe weather, and then it goes on to explain some of the threats. Natural systems modifications, residential and commercial development, agricultural and aquaculture, human intrusions and disturbance, beach use, boat traffic, and the presence of people and dogs at foraging and roosting sites, invasive species, all an issue, pollution as well, like petrochemical, and not sure if I added anything else. Except may have financial support. That's a key issue. And then I will go to the next one. There's the lake whitefish populations. And I don't remember what I had. Okay, here it is. So the threat to this species is introduction of invasive or non-native species. And then it gives examples, climate change as well. Actions identifying as high may be given priority considerations for funding under the Species at Risk Stewardship Program. Yeah, so that's my major concern. Let's see. So related to this, in 2019, those proposals to weaken the Endangered Species Act. There was concern from various environmental groups, and this was a letter that they've made. They said that reassuring statements that review is intended to improve protections, improve effectiveness, and improve stringent protections are misleading because the proposals would undermine the science and indigenous traditional knowledge. They were concerned about simplifying requirements for industry permits and exemptions, and weakening automatic protections for habitats of species at risk. They say that the challenge, like the items in the discussion paper, were caused by a poor implementation of this law. And then they made some recommendations. And then I will go to news item. And then this is a news item from the National Observer. Ontario groups alarmed by changes to the Endangered Species Act. Oh, and this is by Abdul Martin Sofraz, February 26, 2024. New rules are easing protections to increase opportunities for various types of development and the creation of mining trails. Habitat protection for endangered red-side dace minnow would be reduced from 20 to 10 years, potentially allowing development activities in areas inhabited by the fish for less than a decade, which it wasn't before. Tim Gray said the changes will speed up development approvals and reduce costs for development. Developers engaging in harmful activities that impact Ontario's most vulnerable plant and animal species. And And then there was additional mention of different acts, like the Get It Done Act, cuts to environmental assessment times for key projects such as highways, railways, and electricity transmission lines. I think electricity transmission lines was one of the items in today's look at the environmental registry. And where was I? Okay. Then I will go to... Yeah, so that was a look at what's in the environmental registry. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of your day.